What's going on, fellas? Ooh, MB early on to the stream. Oh, at two. Let's go. Let's go. We'll do a little bit of a review here. A recap of UFC 318. But one second, fellas. Let me just get um, all my devices working. Let's make sure this is good. There we go. There we go. Okay, that's settled. That is as well. Set that little goal quickly. And alrighty. What's going on, boys? Welcome back to the live stream. This is part of our daily live streams. As we're doing a live stream every day during the week, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We stream once, typically on weekends at 2 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays, which is right now. Well, actually, it's 5 o'clock right now, but we decided to stream a little bit later, but still. That's our normal schedule at this point. And yesterday we did a watch along for some of the prelims. I do apologize, I couldn't have watched more of the prelims, but for this upcoming card, I'll mention this a couple times. I know not too many people are in the stream yet, but for this upcoming card, UFC Abu Dhabi, we will be streaming the entire card. So that's going to be fun. We'll do prelims and we'll do the main card as well. So hopefully you guys will tune in. We'll watch fights together. We'll react live. And we'll talk about some of the bets that we've made, if we did at all. But anyways, so UFC 318 just wrapped up yesterday. It was a really good card. I talked about it a bunch going into it. I thought it was going to be fun because even when you look at the fights themselves, obviously some of these names aren't the biggest names. Some of these fights that were getting put together weren't necessarily the most exciting fights in the world. But I thought on fight night, it would be a little bit more exciting than it appeared to be, at least on paper. And I think that's kind of what happened. When you talk about the early prelims, it was all finishes. Carly Judice got a third round KO after dominating the fight. Bruno Ferreira got a submission in the first round. Ryan Spann got a submission in the first round. Jimmy Crute also submission in the first round. And Islam got a TKO in the first round. So all finishes, most of them being in the first round. And even that women's fight that I mentioned was also a TKO finish, which is something that you don't really see all that often. So I would say in terms of entertainment value, the early prelims was pretty good, even though when you look on paper, these aren't necessarily the biggest names or most exciting names in the sport, but it turned out pretty good. In terms of the prelims, I thought the prelims were good as well. Gutierrez, Antiba. I thought going into it, this guy was going to be really good. And in this fight, he really proved it. Listen, I know he hasn't fought all that much. He hasn't been in too many fights. And even in the fights that he's in, they're usually first-round TKOs or KOs. But the thing about Antiba is he does a really good job at obviously being very fast, being very athletic, and hitting really hard. But the biggest thing that surprised me personally about his fight against Valentine is basically the first shot he landed hurt Valentine. But when Valentine was obviously hurt, you see a lot of guys, especially guys with not too much experience. Michael Chandler does this all the time. And he has a lot of experience, but especially guys who don't have a lot of experience, they're kind of just winging shots. As many possible shots, as many powerful shots as he possibly can at their opponent to try to finish them. But when you look at Antiba, he did a really good job at staying technical, even after hurting Valentine multiple times. He did a good job at throwing overhand rights around the guard. He did a good job at throwing uppercuts, staying patient, finding his shots. And of course, eventually he was able to get that TKO in the first round. Only a minute 10 into the round, as I said, really the first punch that Antiba was able to land, he was able to finish him. Or he was able to hurt him, and then he was able to finish him not too long after that. So really good performance for him. I think he's going to be a real problem at the middleweight division. And I think sooner or later we're going to be talking about this guy being a legitimate contender at that division. But next we have Francisco Prado versus Nikolai. Going into this, I thought Prado would win. Listen, I didn't think Prado was amazing or anything like that, but I knew he had an amazing chin. He had some good. Had some good abilities on the ground in terms of his jiu-jitsu. And I saw Nikolai's last fight, and I just wasn't impressed at all. I kind of thought that he would gas out eventually, and Prado would be able to find a finish or find a decision victory. But in the end, it was a split decision victory for Nikolai. Early on, Nikolai impressed me a little bit. He did pretty good work. He was able to hurt Prado a couple of times in the first round. He was able to hurt him in the second round. Then Prado kind of worked his way back into the fight and almost won it, but it was a split decision victory for Nikolai. So, good win, I guess, for him. Relatively fun performance, I guess. Both these guys were kind of tired in the third round, so it wasn't too much action, but for the most part, there was some back and forth. So, the fight was fine. Then Marvin Vettori versus Brennan Allen. This fight really impressed me a lot. I thought going into this, it wouldn't be all that exciting. Normally, Marvin Vettori fights aren't all that exciting. I talked about this a bunch, but he doesn't have all that much power. He's not really all that fast. Really, the best thing about Marvin Vettori is his chin. Other aspects of his game are all fine. Like he's a fine striker. He's a decent wrestler, but nothing really jumps out to you that much. Jack, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Um, but yeah, so I thought the fight wouldn't be that good, but it actually turned out to be very good. It was a mostly stand-up battle between Brennan Allen and Vettori. Both guys were landing good shots. I mean, Brennan Allen in the end was landing the better shots. Even hurt Marvin a couple times. Not too bad to the point where he was about to finish Marvin, but he definitely hurt Marvin a few times, which is impressive considering how good Vettori's chin really is. But good win overall. Marvin obviously was doing some good work as well, landed some decent shots on Brendan as well. So really fun back and forth. Really fun back and forth fight, I thought. Did you enjoy 318? I did. I thought it was a pretty good card personally. I kind of talked about it going into the card. I thought name value wise, it wouldn't be amazing, but on the night itself, I thought there would be more finishes than we expect, and also I thought the fights would probably be a little bit more exciting than maybe the names would suggest, and I think that's kind of how it panned out. So yeah, I did enjoy personally UFC 318. But what do you think, Jack? Did you like the card? But yeah, the Brennan Allen fight was good. Good victory for Brennan Allen. I kind of felt bad for Marvin. I mean, obviously his brother just passed away not too long ago, and then he goes into a fight and the entire crowd is booing him. But good win for Brennan Allen in the end. And I guess I'm happy they were able to squash their beef in the end. Michael Johnson won. Yeah, that was a very, very good win for him. Really impressive. I enjoyed this one. Yeah. It was a great performance. It really was. John, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. But next, this one I was like very happy about. I hate to toot my own horn, but Vinicius Oliveira versus Kyler Phillips is kind of exactly what I thought it would be. Listen, I will say Kyler's cardio looked better than I thought, but at the end of the day, he was still getting tired. Vinicius's pressure is honestly like very legit. I talked about it. I made a video about this. If you guys haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. But Vinicius Oliveira is not necessarily the most technical guy in the world. I think we saw that. He was kind of falling all over himself in the first round, but he's just ridiculously physical. He can take shots very well. He hits extremely hard. And I think we saw that in this fight. And his pressure is also really good. And his cardio is great as well. I think we saw that. I mean, early round one, he was getting tagged up with a couple shots. Didn't really do anything to Vinicius. Then in round two, he lands one big shot and he hurt Kyler Phillips pretty significantly. I thought he even could have found a finish if he went for it a little bit more. But Vinicius's pressure and power and physicality is just really good. And I know his style is a little bit sloppy and people may laugh at this, but I think this guy has a real chance to be a champion. I think his physicality is honestly just next level. Can't believe Costa won. Yeah, I was actually really happy that Costa won, to be honest. I talked about this in some of my live streams. I thought Costa could win. I thought stylistically it was a pretty good matchup for him. But, I ended up betting him. I just couldn't help myself. I'm a pretty big Costa fan, actually. But the only reason why I didn't want to, give the Costa pick out, to you guys or make a video about why I think Costa was going to win is because, this guy just never fights. And he fights once a year, once every 2 years. And he just stares at his opponents a lot of the time. And I thought if he was just going to stare at his opponent this time, he's just going to get beat up to the body, a bunch of body kicks, a bunch of leg kicks and head kicks, and he would lose a decision. But fortunately for Paulo, he did a great job at pushing forward, throwing a lot of shots, a lot of body shots, pressuring his opponent. And that's the way, he was able to get the victory. And that's the way he was able to have a lot of success in the past as well. So great victory for Paulo Costa. I was really happy about that. I should have bet him. I was thinking about betting him. Yeah. It was definitely a good bet for anybody that took him. Oliveira is getting KO up in the rankings. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's possible. He is very open. He did take a couple shots in this fight. He took a couple shots in his previous fights as well. But honestly, like I kind of see him as a similar guy, not as technical, ironically enough, but he's kind of a similar guy to Dricus in some ways. His cardio is really good. He's just so physical. He hits really, really hard. He can take shots really well. His pressure is really good, and he just pushes through a lot of things. So yes, he's going to get caught most likely by some of these guys up in the rankings. But at the same time, I just don't know if these guys are going to be able to knock him out, even if he does get caught. So we'll see what happens for Vinicius. I'm personally pretty high on this guy. I think he's going to go pretty far, but we'll see. Obviously, he does have a very wild style, and he's going to take a lot of damage. Team Casa, yeah, let's go, bro. Torn, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. I bet MJ. Happy about that. Yeah, let's go. Great bet, by the way, on MJ. But yeah, let's talk about that. That's next on the list. Listen, I never understood the odds for Zellhuber. He was like a -1,000, I believe. I personally thought Zellhuber would win. Really, he just had to land one shot on Michael Johnson, and he'd probably go out. MJ's chin really isn't that good. But he wasn't really able to throw shots because of the speed of Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson is like, listen, his record's 25-19 at this point, and it's not a great record, whatever, but he's so much better than the record would suggest. He just performs really well against the good fighters, and he performs really bad against the bad fighters, ironically enough. But on the feet, this guy really is a lot to deal with. He has good power. Even though he's 39, he's ridiculously fast. He's one of the fastest guys at lightweight. Maybe he is the fastest guy at lightweight still, even at 39. So there's a lot of good things he was able to do. And I think Zellhuber just couldn't deal with the speed of Michael Johnson. Johnson was also able to drop Zellhuber at least once. I believe he dropped him twice. Really good performance overall. Zellhuber's game plan, or not game plan, but really the only thing he was able to implement in this fight was landing head kicks on the arms of Michael Johnson. But outside of that, really no boxing, not much damage at all, and really good performance from MJ for sure. So yeah, definitely a great bet, John. Hawaii needs to be again. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Holloway versus Charles Oliveira could be a good one. I know Charles was talking about potentially fighting Max after the fight. I know Max wants to Poirier, but he was also hinting at potentially fighting Charles. Both of those guys, have a history. They have fought before. Both of those guys are, legends of the game, honestly. Both of them have been fighting for a really long time, and it would be a good fight to put together. So a Charles versus Max Holloway fight would be a really fun one, in my opinion, and one that I would like to see in December. So yeah, I definitely don't mind that. And I do agree with you as well that Holloway, I think, probably needs one more fight. I know they asked Dana after the card, and he said Max is in a pretty good position. When they asked him if Max needs to fight one more time or can he get a title shot right away, and Dana said Max is in a good position, which I guess is bullish for Max Holloway's title shot, getting a title shot next. But if you remember and go back to when Gaethje fought last against Fiziev, after Gaethje won that fight, the same question was asked about Gaethje, and Dana White said Gaethje's in a really good position. Essentially the same answer. And at this point, I mean, we'll see what happens. But at this point, Gaethje hasn't got the next title shot. So we'll see what happens for Gaethje as well as for Max. Correct with the DDP comparison. Yeah, I think that the new meta of successful guys is just guys who are able to cut weight better than everybody else. Dricus, Oliveira, and even who's the last guy I'm thinking of? The last guy I'm thinking of is Michael Morales. Like there's probably more examples, but those are three guys that, in my opinion, just do a really good job at cutting weight, and they're just so much more physical than their opponents. They can take shots better than most other guys because they're bigger than their opponents. They hit harder than their opponents. They can get back up if they get taken down, and they just have such a big physicality advantage, and it's kind of the new meta, for some of these guys. And I kind of think Vinicius is, he's one of those guys. He's obviously not super technical or anything like that, but he does a really good job at, just hitting hard, honestly. See, it was right what I told you last time. I'll wait. Yeah, I agree. I also thought going into this fight against Dustin, the power would be a big difference. I thought Max would win the fight as well. So good call out. on that one. But I also thought Max would win the fight as well, just due to the difference in power. As I said a bunch of times, when you look back at Dustin's fight versus Max the second time, Max was having success. He was landing punches in combination. He was landing shots. He was having success. But the problem was he just didn't have any sting in his shots. And Dustin was, he was eating clean shots, but he wasn't really getting hurt. And then when Dustin would crack Max Holloway, he was really hurting Max. But when they fought this time around, Max was able to kind of limit those combinations to 2 or 3 punches as opposed to 5, 6, 7, 8 punch combinations the last time they fought. And also when Max was able to land, he was really able to hurt Dustin this time around. So I thought after the Gaethje fight, I thought even after the Korean Zombie fight, it's pretty clear that Max has a lot more power at this point. And I thought because of that, he would be able to beat Dustin, and he was able to do so. Um, but yeah, Big Og, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. The first meeting between two dogs. Got it. Yeah, I agree with that. I would like to see a rematch. I would like to see a rematch between Oliveira and Max. That would be really fun. What do you think of the process of Vinicius and Oliveira? So yeah, Bing Bong. So I kind of talked about it a little bit before. I think Vinicius is going to be a champion. I might get a clown for it or whatever, but I kind of what I was like my reasoning for that is he's just more physical than everybody else. And the one thing, listen, it may take some time for him to fight Marab if he ever does get there. Maybe he never does, but I think stylistically, it's not the worst matchup in the world against Marab, and I'll tell you why. What Marab does really well against most guys is just tiring them out. He'll shoot a million takedowns, tire out his opponents, and be able to get decision victories. And as of late, he's been getting some submission victories as well against Sean O'Malley. But that's kind of what he does to his opponents. His boxing is getting better, obviously, as his career does progress. But he's not like a super physical guy in terms of his ability to hit super hard. But when you look at Vinicius Oliveira, his cardio appears to be really, really good. Now, obviously, we'll see how he does against Marab when he's shooting 50, 60, 70 times on him and he has to continuously stop takedowns. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult to do. But Vinicius on the feet hits really hard. It only takes one to knock out Marab. And in terms of his cardio, I think his cardio is one of the better cardios in that division. Is it better than Marab's? Most likely not. Marab is within a tier of himself. But I honestly don't think Vinicius is the worst matchup in the world. Marab is the worst matchup in the world for Vinicius. Listen, it might sound crazy at this point. Maybe I'm completely off basis on it, but I do think this guy is going to be really, really good. But we'll see. We'll see. What was the other guys you asked about? Antiba, I also think is going to be really good. He hits really hard. He's very technical, actually. He's very athletic. And yeah, he's just like very good. He's pretty new to MMA as well. And the technical ability he's showing already at this point is really impressive. Obviously, he was able to hurt Valentine with like the first shot he landed. But the biggest thing that impressed me about that fight, obviously, he was supposed to be Valentine. But the biggest thing that impressed me about that fight is as soon as he was able to hurt Valentine, he still stayed technical. We see this all the time. Michael Chandler, or even guys who like don't have a lot of experience, when they hurt their opponents, they just throw a bunch of wild shots to try to find the finish. But for Antiba, he did a really good job at just staying technical. He was able to stay technical. He was able to land uppercuts, and he was able to land a couple right hands, and eventually able to find the finish. So his technical ability, alongside with his athleticism, speed, and power, leading me to believe that he's going to be really, really good. And who's the last guy? Was it Islam? Yeah. So for Islam as well, he put on a really good performance. Pretty good striking, good ability to stop takedowns, get off the cage. I'm also pretty excited about him, and it appears, as I said, he has pretty good power as well. So I'm a pretty big fan of all those prospects. Main two guys out of those three that I'm really high on is Vinicius and Antiba. I think both of those guys are actually like really good. And then for Islam, I think he's very good as well, but I'm not as high as on him as I am on the other two. But not to say that I'm not high on Islam. It just on the other two guys I think are going to be very, very good. So I think this is a pretty good card for prospects, honestly. A lot of good ones. Max looked fast. Max looked so fast. He looked like he was double or triple the speed of Dustin Poirier. And probably for Dustin, listen, he could still get wins at 155. Obviously, he's been fighting the best for how long now? Forever. But it does kind of feel like Dustin took a little bit of a step back, in my opinion. So it's probably a good time for him to retire. As I said, he could still beat guys, obviously, but I thought it was pretty clear that Dustin was on the decline a little bit, and Max Holloway is probably the best fighter he's ever been at this point with his kind of new style, with more power, more defensively sound, more footwork. I think Max Holloway is probably this version of Max Holloway is probably the best he's ever been. So great performance by Max, really fast. Holloway's a monster, 155. I believe the match. Holloway can crack it lightweight. Yeah, I mean, as I said a bunch of times, I thought Max is Taporia's toughest matchup. Probably, maybe Armin will be a tough matchup for Taporia. I personally think Iliad beats Max again. I personally think he beats Armin, or I think he beats Patty, or definitely I think he beats Gaethje. But I do agree with you that at 155, Max can crack, a lot better than he was able to at 145, and maybe he can land some big shots. It's just the thing about Topuria, though, is he has shown a really, really good chin over the years. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. As I said, I think Max is probably the best fighter right now than he's ever been. And he's put on a couple amazing performances for Gaethje and Dustin. I think there's a lot of similarities between Gaethje and Dustin fight for Max Holloway. He looked really, really good at 155. He's a great fighter. Vinicius showing good defense. I reckon you give him right. So yeah, I agree with you, Big Unk. He actually did show good defense. His hands are completely down by his waist, but he did show good head movement and good defense. He was able to avoid a lot of shots from a very, very fast Kyler Phillips. So good performance from Vinicius. After the first round, I know it didn't look amazing. He was kind of like losing his balance, stumbling around. But after the first round, I'm like, all right, this guy's going to win. This is exactly where he wants him, just because, the worst was going to be over after the first round. And I thought he'll be able to take over from there. And he really was able to, especially in that second round. Do you think Vettori is close to being released by the UFC 3 losses in a row? Yeah, I think the UFC is going to keep Vettori at least for like one, maybe two more fights, but I think he's probably relatively close to getting released. Obviously, he lost a bunch of fights in a row at this point, but at the same time, Marvin is fighting a lot of the better fighters. So maybe if the level of competition decreases, Marvin can get a couple victories. For Marvin, listen, I always felt like this about him. He's not bad. Like he has skill. He's decent everywhere. He has decent boxing, decent wrestling, but I just don't think he's great anywhere. And I think that's his biggest downfall. And also on top of the fact that he's not athletic, also on top of the fact that he doesn't hit hard at all, I think, he doesn't really have too many physical advantages outside of his chin, I guess. So I kind of see him as like a middle of the road kind of fighter, but I think the UFC will keep him around a little bit longer, but we'll see what happens for him. Joshua, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. What's up with Holland getting smacked around by D-Rod? Listen, I made 3 videos going into this card. I thought Max Holloway would win. I thought Vinicius Oliveira would win, and I thought Kevin Holland would win. 2 of them I got right. The Kevin Holland one that I got wrong, I was honestly more confident in the Kevin Holland one, or on a similar level of confidence, than I was to those other picks. I don't know what I was watching with the Kevin Holland fight. That was the weirdest performance ever for me. D-Rod's a guy who doesn't have an amazing chin, doesn't hit that hard, and always keeps his head on center line. He's very hittable. But in the first 2 rounds, it just seemed like Kevin Holland could not hit him at all. D-Rod's head was on the center line essentially throughout the entire fight. And, Kevin Holland was just not throwing jabs that often. He was not really throwing right straights effectively. He was setting up, or he was making it so obvious when he was about to throw a right hand. And it's just throughout the first 2 rounds, I don't know what Kevin Holland was doing. And he even got hurt. Like, I never thought, I know obviously anybody can get hurt, but the fact that he was like hurt that bad, honestly, I never thought I would see Kevin Holland hurt that bad. His chin has been amazing thus far. He's taken a lot of big shots from guys. And I don't really consider D-Rod to be a guy that hits that hard. But then when I watched back the replay, Kevin Holland was running. Sorry about that. Kevin Holland was running right into a counter left hook from D-Rod, and D-Rod was, he threw that left hook with all of his power. So it was a very powerful shot, and Kevin Holland survived that. I actually kind of think it shows how good Kevin Holland's chin is. But eventually in the 3rd round, he caught D-Rod, almost finished him, then didn't finish him and lost the fight. Really weird performance from Holland, in my opinion. I really thought he should have won that fight, but what can you do? that was a weird one. All people remember from the Hollywood. Yeah, I agree with you, by the way, with the Topuria and Max fight. I thought Max looked pretty good in that fight. I thought he had a really good game plan, and it was a really close fight. So we'll see. I personally don't think they're going to fight to Poirier and Max. We'll see. But what I'm assuming is going to happen is Max is going to fight Armin, Gaethje, or Patty. He'll probably beat them, and then he'll probably move up to 170 and fight Islam. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen, but we'll see. Maybe we do see a Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria fight again. Um, Dustin did better than Gaethje, in my opinion. You're 100% right. He did do better than Gaethje, no question about it. He had a lot more success than Gaethje did. But what I mean by when I said I thought the Gaethje and Dustin performances were very similar for Max is for the most part he looked like the significantly better fighter. He was able to hurt his opponent, Gaethje and Dustin, multiple times in the fight, and it just seemed like he was the better fighter. And he was doing a great job at staying safe for the most part, utilizing footwork, getting on the outside, throwing combinations when they revealed themselves, and he was able just to do great work. That's what I really mean when I say both of those performances were similar. But yes, I do agree with you. Dustin obviously had a lot more success. He was able to drop and really hurt Max in that second round. And even in the fourth round, I believe it was, he was able to land a decent amount of shots as well. So definitely a better performance from Dustin than what Gaethje was able to do. I hope they give Gaethje a new pair of custom shorts because he said he wants some. If he wants new shorts, I'm sure they'll give it to him. You know, he's done amazing things throughout the years, and he's a really fun fighter, even at this point. Vettori relies too much on his chin. I do agree with you. He does. He definitely does. Oliveira gets his head ripped up by O'Malley or Jan. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Listen, I by the way, welcome to the stream. But I get it. Obviously, his style looks super sloppy, and you would think a guy like Sean O'Malley or Peter Yan would be able to land big on him and finish him, which may happen. I mean, I'm not saying that's impossible. It may happen. I just think the physicality level for Vinicius is really impressive, and for the most part, he does a good job at just pressuring his opponents. He backs everybody up. He would probably back Sean O'Malley up. I mean, Sean's a good counter striker, but still, when you're on the back foot, it does become more difficult to land power shots. And the same thing with Peter Yan. Yan is an amazing striker. He's obviously not even in the same realm as in terms of technical ability between Vinicius and Peter Yan. But I kind of just feel like Vinicius he just hits too hard and takes shots too well. But listen, I could be completely off on this. So be sure to call me out if Vinicius loses anywhere down the road. I think they should give Oliver a new pair of custom shorts too. Yeah, sure. I mean, if these guys want new shorts, then sure. I mean, they definitely deserve it. Vittori has a 1-2, a chin, and nothing else. Incredibly sad. He never developed anything. Yeah, I do agree. He kind of does have just a 1-2, a good chin, and yeah, I do agree with that. Holland definitely looked off last night. No talking. A little timid. Yeah, I think he was surprised by getting rocked. I was too. I was really surprised that he got rocked the way he did. He was hurt bad, Kevin Holland. And I think after that, he was a little bit more defensively sound, I guess, a little bit more, and he was a little bit more timid, as you said. But in the third round, he landed a big left hook. I was just like, the weirdest thing to me was the fact that Kevin Holland just could not land on D-Rod in the first two rounds. D-Rod wasn't really doing anything to avoid shots. He wasn't moving his head. He wasn't really being defensively sound, really. He was just running at Kevin Holland. If you're Kevin Holland, step off to the side, counter D-Rod. He's running full speed at you. If you find a counter shot, you're going to knock him out for sure. I just thought it was a weird performance from Kevin Holland. Maybe I overrated him. I guess I did overrate him going into this fight. Just a weird performance from Kevin. Somebody said this on one of my posts, and they happen to be absolutely right. They said Kevin Holland is the most inconsistent fighter on the roster. I think that's probably true. This was kind of a fight that was set up for Kevin Holland to win, but he lost. Maybe I'm underrating D-Rod, but I just don't personally think this guy's that good, and I thought Holland should have won this one. But regardless, good performance from D-Rod. I think Holland thought it would be a cakewalk. D-Rod is a dog. Yeah, I think you have a point, kid, by the way. I do think Holland probably thought it would be a cakewalk. Some of his setups are just a little bit too obvious. He obviously is so much longer than everybody else in the division. He should look to stay at least a little bit technical. He does like that hop step into a right hand, but it's just so obvious. It's so easy to tell. if I'm Kevin Holland, I mean, you should really look to implement a jab. When he was able to knock out Joaquin Buckley back in the day, he did a good job at landing a jab right straight. If he just utilizes that a little bit more, tries to stay a little bit more technical, I think Kevin Holland would be better. And I think that really would have benefited him in a fight against D-Rod in this one. But yeah. UFC, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Costa is back. Yeah, he's back. He put on a really good performance, I thought. I thought the way to beat Kopylov was kind of out there already based on some of his previous performances. Just pressure the guy, throw a lot of shots his way. You're going to be able to gas him out. He's going to be a lot more timid. It's going to be harder for him to throw those body kicks and head kicks when he's on the back foot. And Paulo was able to do that. I thought going into this fight, as I touched upon before, I thought it was a really good stylistic matchup for Paulo. The only reason why I was, staying away from making a video on why I thought Paulo would win was just because this guy has been so inconsistent and he obviously hasn't fought in a long time. The last time we saw him against Strickland and even against Whitaker, he was kind of just staring at his opponent the entire time. So I thought if he was just staring at Kopylov, he would just get eaten up by the body kicks and by head kicks. But fortunately for Paulo, he did a great job at pushing forward and, landing some big shots, even dropped Kopylov a couple times. Great body kicks. Great performance from Paulo, I thought. I have to give a second pair of some shorts. This time it should be a light green with the floral pattern. Yeah, for sure. This time again, green and yellow Brazil flag on them. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, listen, they definitely deserve new shorts if they want. And yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it. Kopylov looked too patient in round one, and then his coaches told him he was fighting perfect. Yeah, I agree. His coaches were off too. Kopylov is hopefully he trains somewhere else where these guys. Yeah, I agree. I thought his coaching was, or his corners coaching was really weird. He was just timid the entire fight. Paulo was doing a great job at utilizing feints, and he was really having Kopylov bite on essentially everything. Paulo did a great job at pushing Kopylov. Paulo did a great job at pushing Kopylov back, getting him into that inside boxing range, landing a bunch of big shots. Obviously, as I said, he dropped him with a big right hand a couple times, I believe. Once he dropped him, and another time I think he hurt him. But great performance from Paulo. Weird performance from Kopylov. Very timid, as you said. His corner definitely didn't help him out either. And yeah, I don't know. Just weird performance from him. But anyways, moving on to the next fight of this card, we had Pitbull and Dan Ige. If you guys watched some of my previous live streams going into the card, I thought this was probably a pretty good stylistic matchup for Pitbull. Based on the fact that Dan Ige is a little bit shorter and the range is kind of the same between Ige and Pitbull. So I thought Pitbull would be able to find counters. I thought Ige would be a little bit more forward, throwing a bunch of shots in combination and potentially leaving some openings to get countered. That didn't necessarily come to fruition. It was kind of a slower paced fight, but for the most part, I thought Pitbull fought the right fight. Obviously he's a little bit of a more boring fighter. He's very patient, a lot of times to a fault, but still, I thought he fought a good stylistic game plan against Dan Ige. He was able to catch Ige. He hurt him pretty badly. He was able to find, some well-timed takedowns, had a lot of success, and yeah, good performance from Pitbull and got the decision. So that was a good one. Then we kind of talked about this already, but Kevin Holland versus D-Rod, I thought it was just a weird performance. Holland just, as I said, could not land at all until the third round, and D-Rod, then when he did land, he landed like one big shot throughout the entire fight. The one shot he landed, he almost put him out. But props to D-Rod for surviving that. He was hurt really badly, but he survived that and got the victory in the end. So great performance by him. What I think happens, people under D-Rod's thinking it's going to part shut them up. Yeah. I was one of those guys. I actually thought D-Rod would kind of be a walk in the park for Kevin Holland. But I was definitely wrong about that. Listen, I still think Kevin could have fought differently, and he definitely could have fought a little bit better. But yeah, I definitely underestimated D-Rod in that one. So good performance by him. Michael Johnson versus Manuel Torres. Anyone? That would be a fun fight, man. It's so weird. Michael Johnson is, what is he, on a 3-fight win streak at this point? If you put him up against someone who's not good, he's going to get knocked out. If you put him up against someone who's good, he's going to just be too fast for them and land a lot of shots and continue the win streak. So him versus Manuel Torres would be a very high-paced, action-packed fight. Just the thing about that one is Johnson cannot take shots from Manuel Torres. If he takes one shot, I think he'll probably get knocked out. But once again, Michael Johnson's going to be a lot faster than Manuel Torres, and I think there'll be a lot of countering possibilities against Manuel. Manuel is just like really aggressive, like to a fault at times. So I think there's going to be some countering opportunities for him in that fight. But that's a really fun one. Honestly, good matchmaking. That's a good one. That Pupil who fought in Bellator has yet to show up in the UFC. Yeah, he's just like, I mean, yeah. I listen, when Pitbull was in his prime, I mean, obviously at this point, what is he like 37, 38, Pitbull? So obviously he's a little bit older. Um, but listen, even in the PFL or slash Bellator, he was like always like very, very patient. It just sometimes he went up against better stylistic matchups where he's able to find counter shots and able to get finishes. And I think we're kind of seeing that still in the UFC, maybe even more patient than he was in the past. But just some of these guys that he went up against, Sayir and Dan Ige, they just didn't come forward enough as I thought they would. Or for a year, I knew he wouldn't come forward that much, or at least stand outside kicking range where Pitbull really couldn't hit him. But for Dan Ige, I thought he would come in, get on the inside a little bit more and throw a bunch of shots. But yeah, Pitbull was able to find the win in the end. But some of these matchups going forward for him, I think, could be good stylistically for him. We'll see how he performs, Patricio, and we'll see. But obviously, he is a little bit older at this point, but he still has good defensive abilities, good technical abilities, hits really hard, and we'll see. We'll see where he goes. Pitbull blows, man. Ige sold the bag by instead of just installing it for the first round. Yeah. Then Ige did, stall out a little bit more than I was used to seeing. I was a little bit surprised about that it was, listen, Pitbull is usually in a slower pace fight. That's usually to his advantage. But Dan Ige, I thought, would push the pace a little bit more than he did. And yeah, he didn't. But in the second round, I believe it was, he got caught, got taken down a few times. And yeah, good win for Pitbull. Ole Ole style fighter. Yeah, he is. He definitely is. Yeah, we kind of talked about, as I said, the Kevin Holland fight, the Paulo one as well. We kind of talked about, but just to reiterate, I thought Paulo Costa stylistically this was a great matchup for him against Kopylov, and it turned out to be. Really happy for Paulo. He hasn't won a fight in 3 years or something like that. So happy that he can get back in the win column. We'll see who he goes up against next. I know a lot of people are saying put him up against Hamzat if Hamzat loses, put him up against Izzy not if anything, put him up against Izzy next. We'll see what happens. I mean, obviously the Hamzat fight's a really difficult fight for him, but they have the beef and it'll be fun at the very least. But against Izzy, who knows? Who knows? Maybe Paulo could find a victory in the end, but we'll see. And then for Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, it was a really good fight. I mean, both these guys had their moments. In the first round, Max was able to hurt Dustin. The second round, he was also able to hurt Dustin. Also, Dustin was able to hurt Max, probably even worse. In the second round, I think Dustin had Max in the most trouble in this fight. But as I said, great performance from Max. He did a lot of good things in this fight, made a lot of adjustments. His power is way better. He was just so much faster than Dustin as well. Footwork was great. And I thought the fact that his combinations were, 2 to 3 punch combinations was actually a benefit for him. When you look back at Max in the past, he would throw 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 punch combinations. But, due to that, he would get countered a lot and he would eat a lot of shots. But at this point, Max has kind of adjusted his game to throw less punches and combinations, just throw 2 or 3, maybe sometimes 4 punches in a combination, staying technical and getting out of there, not taking those counter shots from his opponents. And I think we saw that a lot in this fight. So great performance from Max. Even at the end when he pointed down at the ground and was going at it with Dustin, I think he hurt Dustin. I know a lot of people are saying Dustin chickened out or whatever, but I think it was because he hurt him. And Dustin was like, I just don't want to get knocked out in my last fight. So he decided to clinch up. But really fun fight overall. Both guys had their moments. Who would even take a fight against him? Take that fight. Yeah, it's a great point. I'll full screen this at this point. But that's a great point. Honestly, I don't know who would want to fight this guy. He's unranked. I don't know what the benefit to fighting an unranked guy that's that good is at this point. So I don't know who's really going to want to fight this guy. I think he's I think he's probably the truth. We'll see how he performs as he moves up through the rankings. Obviously, most of his fights have been really short, so who knows about his cardio, or his gas tank, or his defensive grappling. There of course are some questions that are yet to be answered about him, but for the most part, he seems to me like he's the truth. So I don't really know. We don't want to fight this guy. Uh, I went 1-4 in the main card. Damn. It's all good though. It happens to all of us. I was also wrong about a couple fights on the main card. Um, but it's kind of weird. But one last thing I want to point out about the main card, it was kind of weird. So all the early prelims were finishes. There was one finish on the regular prelims. On the main card, they were all decisions. But if you look back, there was a knockdown in every single one of these fights, which is ironic. And ironic, they were all fun fights. There was a knockdown in every fight, but there was no finish. In the Michael Johnson fight, Johnson was able to drop Selhooper at least once, I think maybe twice. Pitbull was able to drop Dan Ige. Holland was able to drop D-Rod. D-Rod was able to drop Holland. Costa was able to drop Kopylov. And in the main event, Max and Dustin both dropped each other. So a lot of action and guys getting hurt and guys getting dropped. And there was not a finish in any one of those main card fights. I thought that was kind of weird. Holloway should dye his hair blonde. Yeah, sure. Why not? Be like Charles. Oh man. Chat, am I balding? What the fuck? But Dustin didn't want to go face down in LA. Yeah. I don't blame him either. It was his last fight. I think there's a chance he could have got knocked out. Listen, outside of Poirier, it kind of just shows you, how much of a different animal Poirier is. But outside of Poirier, I don't think anybody should oblige to Max when he goes like this in the final 10 seconds. Even if you're losing, he's just so ridiculously fast when he gets in those situations. And alongside with the fact that he hits so hard at this point, nobody's really going to have success against him. And it kind of, I know I glaze Ilya a lot, but it kind of just makes Ilya look even better after Max having so much success with these things at the end. Went to Poirier, pointed down in the first 10 seconds, and he was willing to throw down with Max right away. So yeah, but I agree with you. I don't blame Dustin at all. I wouldn't blame anybody for not obliging to Max. What's Holloway's ranking lightweight now? It doesn't update until Tuesday, so we'll see on Tuesday. But currently, what is he, like 4 or something? Currently, he's 5. He just beat Dustin, who's 6. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to like 4 or possibly even 3. Most likely 4. I mean, he already beat Gaethje, and Gaethje's at 4 now. So I'm assuming Max is going to be number 4. That's my guess, but we'll see on Tuesday. That's when they update it. Michelle Perrin, maybe that would be fun. Against Antiba. Yeah, that would definitely be fun. But I know Michelle has a fight booked, and the problem with Michelle at this point is I think he's just done. I mean, his cardio looked terrible in his last fight. He'll probably get finished by Antiba, or almost guaranteed actually, against him. Antiba, however you say this guy's name. But yeah, that would probably be a fun fight. Francisco Prado is unbelievably small for welterweight. He's lucky. Fought the last IQ guy who would get tossed around like a baby. He is very, very small. He is very small, and I do agree with you. I thought his opponent was very not smart. I mean, he threw like 5 spinning kicks and he got, taken down every single time. And he didn't decide, or he didn't think in his mind, oh, like maybe I shouldn't throw a spinning kick. I keep getting taken down. He did it like 3 or 4 times in like one round where he kept getting taken down. It was just so weird to see. As DC said in the fight, I don't know why anybody, throws spinning kicks against a wrestler. It's normally not effective, and you're going to get your back taken almost every time, or at least get taken down. So I thought his IQ was pretty low. I even thought Prado could have won the fight. I think the decision was fine that he lost. I mean, obviously he got hurt in the first round badly. In the second round, he got hurt a little bit too. But I actually thought Prado could have won just because of how dumb Nikolai was out there. But, Nikolai got the split decision victory. But I do agree with you. Prado's just like very small. The fact that he has a block of the head really helps him out, though. He could take some punishment for sure. What's Dan Hooker's ranking right now? That might be another Holloway thing. Holloway versus Hooker would be a really, really fun fight. Hooker is 7. We'll see where Hooker's at in terms of his injury, though. I know I always talk about that when someone brings up Hooker, but it's a real thing. I don't know how soon Dan Hooker can fight, so we'll see what happens with that. But assuming he's healthy and he can fight, Dan Hooker versus Max Holloway would be a great one. As Dana kind of said in the press conference, and I agree with him, there's so many fun fights they can put together at 155. Obviously, for the belt, we'll see who fights Poirier, but you have Arman Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, Paddy Pimblett, Fiziev even, and some other guys. There's just so many guys that are all like really fun fighters and legitimate contenders, and you can put a lot of these guys to match them up against each other. So I think there's a lot to do at 155 personally, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh Lord, Michelle is booked versus Tulio already. He's toast. Yeah, he is toast. I agree with you. When is that fight, by the way? That's like soon, right? Relatively. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it quickly. Is that the China card? It might be. Let me just check quickly. Yeah, it is the China card. It's in August. Yeah, Tulio's gonna finish him. I was always a fan of Michel Pereira. Obviously, he's really exciting and really fun. But the problem is, he just has no gas tank at all, and he kind of looks a little bit washed at this point, unfortunately. Hooker says he has plans to go back around the fall, and he said he wants to fight MSG in November. Yeah, sure. If they do Max versus Hooker, that's an amazing fight to put together. If Max beats Hooker, he'll definitely get a title shot at that point. Even if Poirier is still the champ and he doesn't move up or anything like that, Holloway would certainly deserve it. And then if Hooker beats Holloway, would he get a title shot? Honestly, maybe. I mean, Hooker is number 7 right now. Holloway would most likely be number 4, and Hooker would be on at that point it would be a 4-fight win streak. So who knows? I mean, it could be a legitimate number 1 contender fight for both those guys. Definitely for Max, but maybe even for Hooker as well. So that'll be a good one, and it'll also be really fun. Shanghai, yeah. Getting outgassed by a boost is a telltale sign. I completely agree. That was the weirdest fight in the world. A boost didn't even gas that bad, which is like the weirdest thing ever. Well, it was kind of because it was such a slow-paced fight. But yeah, if you're gassing out like badly versus a boost, like if a boost is the fresher guy than you after the first round, you have a real problem. And I agree with you. His career is probably over at this point. But when his career wasn't over, he was a fun fighter. He was never like an amazing fighter, but he was fun. He was really explosive, hit pretty hard, had decent abilities on the ground, good submission game. So there was definitely things to like about Michel, but at this point his gas tank is really failing him. Who should Costa fight next? So I saw some, obviously I heard some people talk about him fighting Khamzat if Khamzat loses, but even if Khamzat loses, he's going to be 3 in the rankings. It's probably too big of a jump up for Paulo from 13. Well, he'll probably be like Paulo will probably be like he'll probably be like 12 in the rankings, maybe 11, 12 or 11 after his win over Kopylov. So a realistic fight for Paulo could be I don't know, like maybe like a Marvin Vettori rematch. I know Marvin beat him before, which is kind of weird to think about at this point. So maybe you could do a Marvin Vettori rematch. You can do the only problem is all these other guys are booked already. Brendan Allen just fought. Marvin Vettori also just fought. But Fluffy Hernandez has a fight booked. Delice fight booked. Cannonier fight booked. Bahalio fight booked. Whitaker fight booked. Khamzat fight booked. Imavov fight booked. So it would either have to be Marvin Vettori, Israel Adesanya. I kind of would like to see the Adesanya thing. It's just Costa's pretty low in the rankings at this point, and Adesanya is number 4. So it would be a big jump up, but they obviously have history in the past. So I would like to see Adesanya versus Paulo. I mean, I think that would be fun. But more realistically, I could see maybe a Marvin Vettori rematch. But one of those two I would like. And I would also love him to fight Khamzat if Khamzat loses, but I just, they're kind of in a different league at this point. But listen, if they booked it, I wouldn't be mad. They have the beef, so we'll see. Hooker would probably need one more fight if he beats Holloway. Yeah, you might be right. But if he does beat Holloway, I think he'll be pretty close. Costa should fight the loser of Fluffy and Delete. I don't mind that either. The thing about Fluffy, though, it could be a bad matchup for Paulo, maybe, because I could see Fluffy putting on a pace, going for a lot of takedowns, and tiring out Paulo as the fight does progress. Um, but Fluffy doesn't appear to be all that durable. So if Paulo could land a big shot early, Paulo doesn't hit the hardest, but he hits decently hard, I'll say. So if he can land a big shot early, maybe some of those body kicks could be big. Fluffy has gotten hurt to the body a bunch of times, actually. Even got hurt to the body against Michelle Pajeda in the first round when they fought. So maybe there's an opportunity there. But I don't hate that. The loser of Fluffy and Delete fight Paulo. That's good matchmaking. Or if he wants to stay active, Allen versus Pfeiffer. Yeah, I don't mind that either. I don't mind that. I kind of just want to see Paulo get a couple wins and just move his way up the rankings. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. How tall are you? I'm 6 foot. Rematches are just a little boring. I like to get fresh matches. I do agree with you. The only reason why I was suggesting the Marvin Vettori fight is it's a fight that I think Paulo would win, especially at this point. And I just want to see this guy get wins. I just want to see him be a little bit more active, and I want to see him fight some of those guys at the top of the weight class again. That would be pretty cool to see. But we'll see what happens for Paulo. But I do agree with you. Fight between him and Vettori might not be the most exciting fight in the world. And him versus Izzy, it is a rematch, but I kind of feel like both of these guys are different fighters at this point. I think Paulo, actually looked pretty good in his last fight, and Izzy also looked pretty good at this point in his last fight versus Imavov. I know maybe it's controversial. I actually think he looked decent, especially in the first round. I thought he looked pretty good, but his chin and his reaction time is just not the same. So I think it could be interesting, but for the most part, I probably would agree with you. 5'12", you mean? Yeah, 5'12". How old are you, Juice? I'm 25. I'm 25. But yeah, we'll see what happens for Paulo. Definitely could be could maybe make a little bit of a resurgence, and that'd be fun to see. Robocop versus one of the guys would be fun. Yeah, that'd be fun too. Robocop's definitely pretty good. His power is just absurd. In his last fight, I actually thought he was losing, but then he landed like a sort of like shovel hook, uppercut, shovel hook, whatever. And he knocked out Hermanson like bad, like really bad. His power is insane, and obviously he has good skill in terms of the jiu-jitsu, in terms of the wrestling. He just doesn't utilize it. But he does have that ability as well. So RoboCop is usually a fun fighter. RoboCop versus Paulo is, that's probably a pretty fun fight. So there is a lot of matchups to possibly put together for Paulo. I just like to see this guy get some more wins. I thought going into the Kopylov fight, it was a good stylistic matchup for Paulo. I thought if Paulo lost to Kopylov, he probably would be done at that point. But, obviously he won. He put on a pretty good performance, and we'll see what he can do going forward from here. But, yeah, as you said, RoboCop versus him would be fun. And yeah, I think that would be a good one. What's going on, Tyler? Welcome to the stream. MMA Guru. What happened with Guru? What happened? Is he streaming or something? Did he tweet something? Let's see. I don't see anything new. Man. But yeah, I don't know what happened with MMA Guru. Let me know. But yeah, good card overall. Was a pretty good card. Obviously, as I said, in terms of the name value, it wasn't like the best, but I thought the fight itself could be pretty fun, and it turned out to be pretty good. So that's in the books. And for Dustin Poirier, amazing career. Obviously, he was never undisputed champ, but that's really the only thing that eluded him for like 5 years or like 10 years or longer. This guy was fighting the best of the division like forever. He has a lot of wins over some really, really good guys. And he was, relatively close to becoming a champion when he fought Oliveira. Obviously, Oliveira is just kind of like an all-time fighter, in my opinion, and he was able to finish him at the end. But, Dustin did have a lot of success in that fight. he had some close fights against some other guys as well. He's able to beat a lot of good guys over the years. So, in my opinion, I do think he's a Hall of Famer. Usually, you would like to see a Hall of Famer become a champion at some point, and Poirier hasn't. At least undisputed. He was an interim champ, but good career overall. Definitely a good career overall. Giannis going to beat the hell out of McGee. Going to be a brutal beatdown. Sick card next week, even with Avoid pulling out. Completely agree on both points. Listen, this is a really weird matchup. I thought probably what happened in this fight was, or why the UFC put together this fight was, I think it's kind of obvious that Peter Yan's going to get the next shot after Corey Sandhagen versus Merab. Most likely Merab's going to be Corey. So, I thought Yan wanted to stay a little bit active. Maybe the UFC wanted him to stay a little bit active as well. And they were kind of just, going throughout the rankings, and either some of those guys had a fight booked already, or they didn't want to fight Peter Yan or whatever. And they moved their way all the way down to Marcus McGee. And he was the one that accepted the fight. So I think that's probably why they put it together. But I agree with you. He's gonna butcher McGee. Kind of weird matchup. Yan kind of has McGee covered everywhere. On the feet, he's more technical. McGee has decent power, but Yan has a good chin. He's also pretty defensively sound. He's going to be faster than McGee. Even on the ground, I don't know if he will, but if Yan wants to wrestle in this fight, he can certainly out-wrestle McGee. Yan, obviously, when you watch him, you talk about his striking, really good striker, technical, good power, good chin, very defensively sound, does a lot of things really well. You kind of forget about how good of a wrestler this guy is. And I do think that Yan kind of has McGee covered everywhere. So I agree with you. He's probably going to win. He's like a minus 400. I think he probably should be even more. Unless McGee lands some sort of a huge shot in the first round and knocks out Yan, I don't think McGee really has much of a chance. And even then, I don't think, even if McGee lands a big shot, I think Yan will be able to eat it. Probably he'll get hurt, but he'll be able to survive and go forward from there. And the card next week is sick. It is unfortunate that Evloev pulled out. I think they're moving that fight to UFC 319, so we're still going to have that fight, luckily for us. But yeah, the card itself is really fun regardless. RDR versus Whitaker. Obviously, Yan versus McGee is going to be a fun one. Yan's always exciting to watch. And what else is on that card? And Bryce Mitchell, I believe, is on the card versus Nurmagomedov. Yeah, he is. And Almabayev's on the card, and Nikita Krylov's on the card. There's a lot of good ones. Definitely a lot of good ones. Char's on the card. I'm not really high on Char personally, but he's on the card. We'll see what he's able to do. Yadong versus Oliveira would be a good step up. That's a good fight. That is a good fight. The thing about Yadong is he's also really physical, so that would actually be a very interesting matchup. We'll see how Yadong's able to do on the back foot, getting pressured by Oliveira, because I kind of feel like Oliveira would pressure anybody at this point. But at the same time, Yadong hits really hard, so we'll see how Oliveira is able to eat some of those shots. If he does, I mean, Oliveira is honestly does a pretty good job at moving his head and not taking shots clean, even though his hands are completely down by his sides. But we'll see. That's honestly a pretty good step up for Oliveira. I don't mind that fight. Sayed versus Bryce is going to be sick. Yeah, I actually think. I mean, for Nurmagomedov, obviously he's like really athletic, and he's very explosive and everything like that. But he does kind of gas out, and I kind of think that Bryce is going to win this fight. I kind of think he's going to be able to take down Nurmagomedov, and I kind of think that. There we go. On the Kick side of things, every comment I get on Kick is someone trying to sell me something. It's honestly kind of annoying. But anyways, for Bryce, I think he'll be able to take down Nurmagomedov, and if he's able to survive round one, he's going to win the fight. Nurmagomedov is good. He's explosive. He has a really good ninja choke, actually, which is something that Bryce is going to have to worry about. And on the feet, he has really good kicks, really explosive, kicks hard, as I said, but he does gas. So if Bryce can just, pressure him, get takedowns, avoid some of those big shots, I think Bryce is going to win the fight. But I think overall it's going to be a really fun one. Probably going to be a good fight. Carlos Leal is going to add another name to his hit list. Poor 50-year-old Muslim. Dude, it's hilarious. Muslim Sadikov is a legend, in my opinion. Dude, he's 42, whatever he is, 43. but this guy, like, he's not actually like that good, but he's got the quickest spinning wheel kick I've ever seen. He's 43 at this point. He still probably has the quickest spinning wheel kick in the UFC at this point. It's so fast. He has like 5 spinning wheel kick knockouts. Like, that's unheard of. So he's honestly like he's like pretty fun for me to watch. I saw him once in New York, in Long Island, in that car. This was like 3 years ago or something. He walks out to Uppercut by Tupac. It was like blasting. It was like a fire song, and it was just hilarious. Like, this guy, Muslim Sadiqov, is walking out to Tupac. It was so funny. Then he goes out there and lands a spinning wheel kick on his opponent. And after that, I was sold. I was like, all right, this guy's legit. But obviously, like, he's not actually like that good, but it's just so funny how quick his spinning wheel kick is. But for Carlos Leal, he's just a steroid essentially. But he's pretty good. He hits pretty hard, and I agree with you. Leal's probably going to win that fight. But that could be a good one. Watch out for the spinning wheel kicks if you're Leal. Pencil Shavings, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. Hasn't Jan versus McGee announced before? Yeah, it was, but I think it was. I think the UFC knew after Corey beat Figueiredo that Corey was going to get the next title shot, especially considering that Jan, what's it called? That Jan already lost 50-45 to Merab. So I think it was, I thought it was always kind of clear that Corey was going to get the next shot. But yeah, it was announced before. But as I said, I think probably what's going to happen here is Merab's going to beat Sandhagen. And then I think Jan's going to beat McGee, and I think they're going to do Merab versus Jan eventually. I still think Merab would win the rematch, but maybe it'd be a little bit closer than it was the first time around. I mean, it can't not be closer, right? I mean, 50-45. Brett, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the stream. We're just doing a little bit of a recap of UFC 318. Definitely a good one. But yeah, that's it for Dustin. It's going to be kind of weird not having any more Dustin Poirier fight weeks or fights at all, But, he's fought so many guys at this point. There's not too many guys that it's like, oh, I wish Dustin fought this guy. How would that have went or whatever? As I said, he's kind of just fought everybody. So great career for Dustin. We'll see what he does next, I guess. I really hope he doesn't get into bare knuckle boxing or boxes Jake Paul or something like that. But hopefully just, retires and enjoys his retirement and goes from there. But we'll see. And for Max Holloway, I think it's clear that this guy is, the best he's ever been. He's looking really, really good. I think Max Holloway is going to beat a lot of guys. I think we'll see if he ever fights Poirier again. I think probably he won't. But in terms of some other guys, there's a real world where Max Holloway becomes a champ at 155. There's a real world, and I'll lay it out for you how it could happen. Ilya fights Paddy or Gaethje or Arman. It doesn't really matter. He fights one of those three guys. He wins. Islam beats JDM. Then Poirier moves up to 170, fights Islam at 170. Then Max Holloway fights, as earlier in the chat we were talking about it. Then Max fights Dan Hooker. He beats Dan Hooker, and then he fights for the interim belt against against Charles Oliveira. Well, not Charles. That wouldn't make sense. And then he fights for the interim belt against somebody. Honestly, it would probably be Arman. Arman's probably a tough fight for Max. All right, that kind of just destroyed my whole thing. But outside of Arman, I think Max can beat a lot of guys. I think he can beat Charles. I think he can beat Gaethje. Obviously, already beat him. I think he could beat Dan Hooker, and some of the guys below that. I think he could beat as well. I also think he could beat Paddy. So Max could beat a lot of guys. I think so. We'll see what happens. But Arman's a tough fight for Max. Now going over it, I kind of just destroyed my whole thing. Dustin going to fight KSI in boxing. Yeah, maybe. It'll be – I always joke about KSI's style. He's got that MVP style, but he's not actually good, obviously. But I always joke about his style that, these guys just can't figure it out. Eventually, he's going to get so good. He's going to beat so many guys. Then they're going to throw Tom Aspinall at him. They're going to throw Francis Ngannou. They're going to throw Usyk at him. And all these guys are just not going to know what to do with that, that bouncing style, that blitzing style with the jab right hand of KSI. Yeah, I mean, he's not actually good, but his style is always just so funny to me. MVP has, the same style, obviously, and that's where he learned it from. But it's just weird to see that sort of style in boxing. I feel like it's not nearly as effective in boxing as it is in MMA. And even for MMA, there's weaknesses to it. The leg kicks, wrestling, getting taken down. But MVP has done a good job at being pretty effective with it. If you're stuck on the feet with MVP, it's going to be a tough challenge to have success against this guy. Not too many guys have had success on the feet versus MVP, so there's definitely some benefit to that style. For show. What do we got here? Um, but yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, so that was the card overall. It was a good one. It definitely was a good one. And we'll see what happens going forward. Some matchmaking for some of the guys on the card. But as we were talking about for next week, it's going to be a really good one. I personally, on paper, I'm more excited for this next card than I was for UFC 318. Of course, in the main event, we have RDR and Robert Whitaker. I think it's a really good one. I saw this on Twitter or X, whatever. I think it's really true. I think for RDR, he's either going to look -1,000 or +1,000. There's nothing in between. I have a video coming out this week. I think RDR is going to figure it out, and I think he's going to beat Whitaker. And I have a more in-depth breakdown coming out this week. I believe on Wednesday, either Wednesday or Friday. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be out either Wednesday or Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. But I do think it is true. You don't really know what you're going to get with the RDR sometimes, so we'll see how he looks. But that's going to be a really good fight. It's a pretty big step up for RDR. We'll see what he's able to do against Whitaker, and for Whitaker, we'll see if he can continue to stay at the top of the middleweight division. So good fight. Obviously, we were supposed to have Evloev versus Pico. That was really the main fight that I was super excited about. That was the fight with the most meaning. Obviously, it was a number one contender fight. Movsar has been, undefeated, 19-0. He's been on a huge win streak, 19 wins in a row. And in the UFC, he's beaten a lot of, really good guys. And for Aaron Pico, it's his first fight in the UFC, but he's really good. Obviously, good wrestling, good power, decent striking. So I was really excited for that one, but unfortunately, we're not getting it on this card, but we will be getting it on UFC 319. So at least it seems that way. I don't know. I don't think it's official, but it seems like that's going to be the placement for that fight. So that'll be exciting. And then obviously, as we talked about before, we have Peter Yan versus Marcus McGee. It's going to be, I think it's probably going to be a beatdown, masterclass type performance from Peter Yan. But, it's just exciting to see Peter Yan fight out there. He has a really fan-friendly style. And I think the kicks are going to be big in this fight for Yan. Then we have Marc-Andre Barriault and Chara. For Chara, I mean, I've made videos about him in the past saying he was going to get fraud checked against MVP. I guess it was a relatively close fight versus MVP, but I definitely thought MVP won, obviously. But I'm just really not high on Chara at all. And Marc-Andre Barriault, I don't think is that good either. He hits pretty hard, and he does a good job at pressuring his opponents and landing big shots. But I don't think he's that good either. I'm assuming Chara is going to win, but there is a reality where Marc-Andre Barriault, cuts off the cage effectively, pressures Chara to the cage, gets on that inside boxing range, and lands a big shot. Chara doesn't have good boxing. He's not very defensively sound. Obviously, his one eye, it's hard to see some of the shots coming. Maybe Marc-Andre Barriault can land a big shot. I'm just not super high on Chara, but we'll see what happens for him. Obviously, as I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Chara won that fight. Then we have Almabayev versus Tamirov pulled out, I believe. Almabayev is fighting somebody else. I forgot who he's fighting, but he's fighting someone good. Or I know who he's fighting. I just can't remember his name, but he's fighting someone good. So that's going to be a good one. And Almabayev is a really exciting fighter for the flyweight division, a guy who I personally think could be really good. So we'll see what happens in that one. And then we have Nikita Krylov and Bogdan Guskov. That's going to be a really fun fight. Krylov always goes forward. He always pushes a pace and hits pretty hard. And for Guskov, he has decent striking, hits relatively hard, had a decent performance, I'll say, in his last fight. So that should be a good one for the light heavyweight division. And then moving to the prelims, There's some good ones. Bryce Mitchell versus Nurmagomedov on the prelims is a weird one. I don't know if this is the official order, but I feel like he should be on the main card, especially for a fight night. But that's a good fight. The explosion of Saeed Nurmagomedov against the takedowns and wrestling of Bryce Mitchell. So that's going to be a good one as well. What's Joe Rogan's worst take? What's his worst take? He's had a lot of bad ones over the years, but off the top of my head, Joe Rogan's worst take. I'm trying to think of. I actually can't even think of any. He's had a lot of bad takes, but in the moment I can't think of any. Let's think. What are some? What's one that you think, and then maybe it'll spark some ideas in my head. Oh, well, this is not like a bad take, but I think it's just a misunderstanding of the rules. Joe says this all the time. It's kind of annoying that when a guy gets a takedown, if he just gets a takedown, doesn't do any damage, Joe's like, oh my God, that's huge for the round. He got a takedown. If you look at the scoring criteria, getting takedowns by themselves don't really matter at all. The only time that takedowns really matter is if nothing else happens in the round. If there's no damage at all in the round and one guy gets a takedown, yeah, they're going to win the round. But if one guy drops you or lands a bunch of shots and then at the end of the round you take them down and end on top, that means absolutely nothing. And Joe like constantly says that. If you look back at the fight between Leon and Colby Covington, Leon dominated the entire fight. And then Colby gets a takedown in the 5th round, ends up on top. And at the end of the fight, Joe goes, Colby ended up on top. That's huge for Colby. What do you mean? He lost every round of that fight. It doesn't matter if he got the takedown. It's just like, that's probably my answer. But he's had a lot of bad takes over the years. But that's probably it. If you get a takedown, you should start at the same position. If you get a takedown, you should start in the same position. You mean like if you get a takedown to end the round for the next round, you should start in that same position? That'll be interesting. That'll be a big advantage for wrestlers for sure. Rogan's worst thing is he overreacts to every leg kick listening to Alex. Yeah, dude, if someone lands a leg kick, it'll be like, the calf kick was made big by whoever he said. I don't even remember who it was, but he always talks about that, and he's like, oh, that's a bad one. His leg is toast at this point, and the guy's just moving around the octagon perfectly. Leg kicks do matter, obviously, and eventually, enough leg kicks is gonna really fuck up your legs, and it's gonna limit your movement for most guys. Ironically, Max Holloway has done a great job at taking a lot of leg kicks, and it just doesn't bother him at all. But yeah, if it's like one leg kick, Joe is going to be overreacting to it and acting like the fight's over. So yeah, I don't know. Fight should be in a basketball court. Sure. Give some more area to these guys to run around. You know who this would be really good for, actually, if this were true? It'd be really good for Sean O'Malley and Ian Gary. It's just utilizing footwork, moving around the cage. You know who would never get a win ever again? Chris Curtis. He would never get a win ever again if they fought on a basketball court. There'd be too much movement for him. He can't even handle it in an octagon. So yeah. He also says that eye pokes should be legal. Should be legal? Oh, that's a horrible take. If he said that, that's ridiculous. Yeah, so that takes the cake if he said that. But yeah, there's probably more. I just can't think of it right now. But probably my answer to your question would be, Joe Rogan's worst take would be his overreaction to takedowns. As I said, like, listen, he's been commentating the UFC like forever, and the fact that he doesn't really know how the scoring works is kind of like weird at this point, and kind of like annoying in my opinion. But yeah, he said no stand up. Yeah, I've seen this. Listen, I don't agree with this, but I see where he's coming from. Like, in terms of the takedown thing, like, he's just wrong about it. In terms of the overreaction to leg kicks, he's just overreacting. But in terms of, he said this a lot of times, that he doesn't want, when guys get takedowns, even if there's no action, he doesn't want to stand them up. I can at least kind of see where he's coming from. I personally don't agree with it. I think it's on top of just being too boring, it just allows wrestlers just to get a takedown and stall out a fight. Obviously, for the fans, it's going to be boring, but more so than that, I feel like it's kind of just like too big of an advantage for wrestlers. If you can just take someone down and do nothing, just control them, it just makes it just makes it a little bit easier for these guys. So as I said, I don't personally agree with it, but at the very least, I see where he's coming from in that one. But as I said, I don't think it's a great take or anything like that. Um, but yeah, Joe's an interesting one. I know people complain about it all the time. Like I personally like that Joe's commentating. I think when there's a knockout or a knockdown or something, and he's like, oh, like I think that's exciting to me personally. But for the most part, it does seem like he's kind of just showing up, and he doesn't do any research. He doesn't really know too much about these guys, especially like the guys in the prelims or even some guys in the main card. Like he doesn't know who they fought last. He doesn't do any research. He doesn't, know how they fight sometimes. Like he'll say this guy does, this guy's more known for wrestling when he's a striker or something like that. That doesn't happen too often, but similar things to that have happened in the past. So I think at this point it's pretty clear. Joe kind of just does it like because it's fun, but he doesn't actually do any research, or he doesn't actually watch any fights back or do tape study or anything like that. So he kind of just shows up and has fun reactions, and I think for that, like it's fun. His reactions are definitely fun, but in terms of like giving like actual value to the broadcast, he doesn't really do that. If you look back and watch some of his previous broadcasts, like back in the day, he'll say like, oh, this guy, like if they're on the ground, this guy needs to get over to the other side to complete the submission, or this guy needs to do this to get back up. And maybe at times he does that now, but he doesn't really give that he doesn't really break things down. I think one guy that does a good job at that, I know he gets a lot of hate, but I think DC actually does a pretty good job at that. When guys are wrestling, he says like what they need to do to complete the single leg or the double leg, or if they should switch to a single leg, or if they're on the ground, what his opponent who's on their back would need to do to get back up, or I think he does a pretty good job at like actually giving technical analysis on what guys need to do to advance in position or get back up, or stop his opponent from advancing in position. But for Joe at this point, it's kind of like I saw a meme. It was really funny. But for Joe, it's kind of like nice jab, nice leg kick, nice right hand. Which I mean, listen, it's fair, I guess. I mean, I've done watch longs and I've done that as well, so it's funny for me to criticize him for it. But someone put out a meme and I thought it was just funny, putting it into perspective. Imagine you're watching a football game and the commentary is like, nice pass, nice catch, nice touchdown. It's just like there's nothing there. It's kind of funny. But I guess it's a little, it's a different sport, MMA and football or basketball or whatever. But it's just kind of funny when I saw that getting put into perspective. Joe also said that back of the headshots should be allowed. I'm not lying. That's pretty bad. Back of the headshots. I mean, people that I don't remember his name, but that boxer, got hit back in the back of the head, and not only could he not fight ever again, he was, he had significant problems that came from that. So, back of the head shots are really bad. I know Joe has also talked about 12-6 elbows being legal, which they are legal now, actually. So that was fine. But yeah, back of the head shots are that's pretty ridiculous. That's pretty egregious, actually. If he wants that. But yeah. Joe's an interesting one at this point. I know a lot of people complain about the commentary, and rightfully so. But yeah, either you got Joe Rogan, DC, and Anik. I think Anik's pretty good. But DC and Rogan kind of just seem like they just show up. As I said, for DC, he does do a good job at adding some value in terms of the wrestling sequences, or stopping takedowns or whatever. But it seems like both of them kind of just show up a little bit. And then for and the same. Honestly, most of these guys kind of just show up. It doesn't seem like they do that much research. For Bisping as well, it doesn't seem like he does that much research. But they're well-known voices, and they've been doing it for a while. So I guess whatever. But yeah, I know a lot of people have been complaining about the commentary for quite a bit. But yeah, getting back into this next week's card. Obviously, we talked about this fight a little bit before. Carlos Leal and Salikov. That's going to be a good one. I do think Carlos Leal is going to get a victory, but spinning wheel kicks going to be there's going to be like 3 or 4 spinning wheel kicks in that fight. So that'll be good. Then this is an underrated one. I'm surprised that it's I don't know if they'll move this around, but I'm surprised that it's like basically the opener for this card. But Davy Grant versus Damone Blackshear. Davy Grant's old at this point. Whatever. I mean, he's he could be fun, but whatever. But for Damone Blackshear, like this guy's actually good. He has really good jiu-jitsu. Is a really good grappler, and even as of late, he's been doing a really good job at improving his stand-up. His stand-up game is like really good at this point. He's a really good striker, good with the hands, good with the kicks, and does a great job at just mixing things up. So I think that's going to be a really good fight as well. Blackshear versus Davy Grant. I think Blackshear is going to get the victory. Ibo Islam versus Billy. And Billy's not very good. He's not really UFC level. So I think it's a free win for Ibo Islam. Muhammad Yahya, I don't think he's UFC level either. He's not very good. And then Budai versus Marcus. Marcus is that new guy that's coming to the UFC from ONE FC. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. I kind of hope he's good for the sake of the heavyweight division. He's only 5-1. Obviously, he is new to MMA, but I know he's a jiu-jitsu guy. I hope he's good. I really do hope he's good because we need more competition in the heavyweight division. Whether or not he's good enough to beat Tom Aspinall is besides the point. I mean, I think he's probably not. I haven't seen him fight, but just assuming. But more competition is definitely better for the heavyweight division. There's like nobody that's good. Didn't Joe Royer retire for combat sports because he almost killed somebody? That's weird. Actually, I didn't know that. But yeah, I'm not surprised if that's true. But yeah, that's crazy. Back at the headshots are really, really dangerous. That is pretty crazy. He's good, but he's a lame jiu-jitsu nerd. That's fair. Poirier knocking out a lame jiu-jitsu nerd was the best, but that was so funny. But yeah. Don't be afraid. We have Shamil Kassiev and Volter Walker. Dude, I've talked about this in previous streams. Listen, Volter Walker's not amazing. His stand-up is not great, but he's impressed me. He's really impressed me. He's not fighting the best guys in the world, but I think Volter Walker can actually be a top 10 guy just because, like, I mean, he shows some things that are like actually good. He's really fast with the heel hook setups. He obviously has 3 different setups, and he has good wrestling, and he's pretty fast with it. But the reason why I think he could be effective and could be a top 10 guy is because I don't think anybody in the heavyweight division knows what a heel hook is. I don't think they know how to stop it. I don't think they've ever seen it before. And the fact that that Volter Walker's like actually good with it and he's like fast, I think he's going to get a lot of guys. A lot of these blobs are just going to get held alongside the cage, get taken down, heel hooked, and they're going to tap right away. So I think there's a real chance that that Volter, as funny as that may sound, I think there's a real chance that Volter Walker could just get 2 or 3 more heel hooks and be like a top 10 guy at the heavyweight division. I just think these guys are so like, there's too many blobs that are like not that talented, and I just don't think they know what heel hooks are. but yeah, and then for Shamil Gaziev, I mean, he's a whatever. But he's a jab right hand, but whatever. He doesn't hit that hard, and he's not that fast. But yeah, I mean, well, listen, Shamil Gaziev is probably going to be the champ. Honestly, he'll probably land a nice jab, nice 1-2 on Tom Aspinall. He'll finish him quickly, become the champ, move down to light heavyweight, knock out Ankalaev or Pereira, move down again, get a victory there against Dricus or Hamzat, and just be the champ of every division. Honestly, Gaziev is probably the best fighter in the world. But we'll see where he goes from here. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I have as I said, I'm making a lot more videos coming out. Starting next week. I'm going to be doing 3 videos a week as opposed to 2. I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday videos. But my point is I'm going to do more videos that have more shelf life to them. Right now, what I kind of do is make 2 videos about a specific card that's happening this week. So last week I made a video on Kevin Holland and as well as Vinicius Oliveira, but I'm going to do a better job at making videos with more shelf life. And I guess the reason why I brought it up here is I have a video that I'm going to make soon about the heavyweight division and how bad it is. And if we have any hope going forward. But yeah, Volter Walker will avenge Dontel Mays by heel hooking the lance. Yeah, dude. Dontel Mays is one of the Dontel Mays does not know what a heel hook is. It's insane. He got heel hooked by Gane. He got heel hooked by Volter as well. Um, you know, dude, I feel like I can heel hook the guy, and I have no idea how to heel hook, at least effectively. He just doesn't train. It seems like he doesn't really have too many skills. Um, and yeah, he's just not very good. But that would be so funny if Volter just continues to heel hook everybody. He makes it all the way up to the top of the division, fights Gane, takes him down, heel hooks him, becomes the number one contender, gets a title shot against Tom, takes Tom down, heel hooks him, becomes a champ, all heel hooks. That'd be hilarious. but but yeah. I know I'm joking, but like I'm not like I'm joking about that, but I actually think Volter Walker could be a top 10 guy. He's not that far from it. And I think he could heel hook a couple more guys along the way. But we'll see. Is Johnny Walker going to fight the new fight? He's fighting that guy that beat Smith his last fight. Is he going to win his next fight? No, I don't think so. I don't think Johnny's going to win. I like Johnny. He's really athletic. He hits hard. He's exciting to watch. But I don't think he's going to win, unfortunately. The UFC is really not doing him any favors fighting that guy, Big Bang, Zhang Min Yang. Zhang's like, we'll see how good he is. I don't know how good he truly is. But the thing is, he hits really hard. And obviously, Johnny Walker's biggest kryptonite is guys that hit hard. If he gets hit once, it'll probably go out. His chin's just not really good. But listen, Johnny is fighting with a new gym. I thought him fighting at Connor's old gym was not a good idea. I thought they kind of had him fighting like weird. They kind of had Johnny Walker fight without any explosion or without any, without anything. He was kind of just backing up alongside the cage, Philly shelling, and he's just not good enough at not getting hit. So he took big shots in his last fight, got knocked out like really badly. And whatever. But yeah, they're really not doing him any favors, putting him up against another big puncher. In Meng Ying Zhang. Yeah. So I think Johnny's going to lose that one. Johnny Cook is going to be sad. Yeah, I agree. I personally like Johnny. He's like a pretty fun fighter, but I do agree he is pretty cooked. His chin was never good, but he's been, how many times has this guy been knocked out? And he doesn't just get like TKO'd or whatever, or like knocked out and then he wakes up a second after and it's like bad, but it's not that bad. He gets knocked out so badly. His last fight, he got knocked out like so badly. It was a really late stoppage as well. I mean, the ref didn't do Johnny any favors, but he got knocked out really bad in that one. He got knocked out really bad in his fight against Jamal Hill. And there's been other examples as well. Like when this guy goes out, like he goes out. And it's obviously not healthy to take that many shots and get knocked out that many times. His body's literally telling him to stop fighting. But, I would probably like Johnny to stop fighting. But, he's continuing and he's going up against a big puncher. We'll see. I mean, it would be hilarious if Johnny is able to chin Meng Ying Zhang or get a victory. I would be happy for Johnny, but I just don't really see it. I think even if he has success, he's going to be more athletic. He's going to be faster. No question about it. But even if he has success for, a part of the fight or a majority of the fight, I just feel like eventually he's going to make some sort of mistake, get caught, and get knocked out pretty badly. But I hope not. I hope Johnny's will be all right. But we'll see what happens. But yeah. Sorry, 1 second, boys. But yeah. So sorry for that. But yeah, so that's what we have for Johnny Walker. Obviously, as I said, the card next week should be pretty good. And even the fight after that is UFC Paris. Is it the week after? No, actually, we have a little bit of a. Oh wait, what? Okay, never mind. Sorry, I'm completely off. So the fight next week is the Whitaker and RDR card. And then, unfortunately, after the RDR card, which is going to be a good one, I think, after that, we have 2 fight night cards, or Fight Night cards, but 2 cards in the Apex back to back. So that's gonna be kind of a nightmare. We haven't been in the Apex for a while. Like, when was the last time we were in the Apex? We have 318, then we had Lewis Teixeira, which is in an arena. Then we have UFC 317. Then we have Hill versus Roundtree, which was in an arena. Then Usman versus Buckley in an arena. 316 in an arena. Gamrot versus Klein. Was this in an arena? I don't remember. No way this is in an arena. This is probably in the Apex. Does it say? Yeah, it was. All right. So the last time we were in the Apex was May 31st. It's been a while, so I know people, including myself, have been complaining about the Apex going back so often. But the UFC did a good job. I'll give them some credit at not going back to the Apex for a while. I would like to see them never go back to the Apex, but we have a couple weeks of hell. This is a couple weeks of Fight Night or Apex cards, but whatever. Take a couple weeks off. I'll probably be watching them, but we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get some fun fights there. Whose chin is worse, Johnny or James Vick? I think it's. Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's James Vick. I think, if I had to say, James Vick. Both of them are so bad, though. You know, it was like the worst chin moment that I've ever seen, though. The worst chin moment that I've ever seen was oh man, I always forget his name, bro. I'm gonna find his name. 1 second. Sumudar. He's the guy who fought Sumadarji. I said this before. Let's see. He just retired too. I always forget his name. Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell had the worst chin moment that I've ever seen. Matt Schnell was he was on the ground and his opponent was like landing ground and pound shots like literally like this. What it looked like this kind of power, and it knocked him out cold. It was like the weirdest chin moment that I've ever seen. It was like I don't know. So that was like the worst chin moment that I've ever seen. But in terms of other guys, yeah, like Johnny Walker or James Vick also have really, really bad chins. But out of those two options, it's probably James Vick, I would say. But it's close. The thing about Johnny though is he just tends to just get hit. He tends to just get hit a lot. So, and I guess James Vick does too. But yeah, that's kind of the problem with him. But yeah, so we've been streaming for around an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody for being here. If you guys have any last second questions, be sure to ask them in chat. I will definitely be answering them. But yeah, I know the stream died down a little bit, so I may just hop off at this point and jump back on tomorrow. For any of you guys that are new to the stream, I stream every day during the week, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and weekends on Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I will be streaming tomorrow, and yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Be sure to check out my Dustin Poirier Max Holloway breakdown if you guys haven't seen that already. I just posted that today. But yeah, I'll see you boys tomorrow for the stream. See you at 8 p.m. tomorrow. Peace out, boys.